Hey guys, it's Josh again, and this is a new segment on this channel where I go through and recap things that are happening in TAW. I'm not going to be going over things like Let's Plays or reviews or anything like that. It's just going to be the wrestling shows that I'm going to be recapping. It's going to be TAW Action, TAW Rivals, and TAW UCT in that order. Now these three shows, I'm only going to do each show, like one of each show, which is going to be a rotation, because this isn't going to be a weekly thing, because these three shows don't happen in a week. More like monthly, but still, yeah, I know I have a terrible schedule, leave me alone. But yeah, this is going to be, not, how do you say it, once a rotation, which means after each three shows pass, there's going to be a recap of the shows after each TAW Action, Rivals, and UCT. I will recap everything that goes on, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, and on with the recap. Starting with the August 11th episode of TAW Action, this was a very big show because not only were there 8 matches, but 3 of those matches went into determining who was going to No Escape. One was a tag match, one was a cage match, and one was the main event. Starting out with the steel cage match, the Escape the Cage steel cage match, was Dante versus Phil. These two bitter rivals fought for the right to go to the No Escape main event, because remember, Phil turned in his Excalibur title for a spot in that match, and it pretty much screwed up the entire main event scene. However, this match was pretty brutal. However, it somehow miraculously ended in a draw, which led to Howard Stern later stating that these two will face off again in a singles match at No Escape, and the winner of that match will go on to the main event of No Escape. However, this match must end by pinfall or submission. Moving on with the show was a lightning weight matchup between The Flash and Shadow the Hedgehog. The Flash was very impressive in this matchup, however, he could not defeat Shadow the Hedgehog, as Shadow disposed of him with a lightning-quick Chaos Control, sending a message to Austin Aries as well. Up next was Bane versus Electro. This match was not nearly as close as the previous 2 matches, but Electro did get a few moves in, however Bane easily overpowered him, and after defeating him with the Rise of the Darkness, he challenged Broly to a match at No Escape. We still have no word from Broly as to whether or not he'll accept this challenge. Hopefully he does, because that would be one great match. Up next was a Femme Fatale division match, Sophie Kane versus Lara Croft, and this match was pretty much 50-50 right down in the middle, until the end when Lara Croft locked Sophie Kane in her submission maneuver, which is kind of like a weird leg full Nelson. However, the lights went out, and when it came back on, Sweet Tooth, Sophie Kane's dad, was out to the ring, and Lara Croft was suspiciously unconscious, allowing Sophie Kane to pick up the victory. And after this, Howard Stern came to the ring and announced several matches for the No Escape pay-per-view, such as Krillin versus Ronald McDonald for the Internet title, Deadpool versus Dracula for the Molecular title, and a possible triple threat match for the Lightning Weight title involving Mario, Luigi, and Sonic. However, Mario must defeat an opponent of Luigi's picking, or choosing, that's a better word. He must defeat an opponent of Luigi's choosing in order to enter that championship matchup. So, who is Luigi going to choose for Mario to face? That question will be answered on the next episode of TAW Action. Up next was the big tag team match on this show, the Blue Man Group versus Nakamura and Jigsaw, where the winners would go on to face Superman and the Incredible Hulk to determine the #1 contender for the tag team titles. After a grueling matchup, Nakamura and Jigsaw were able to win the match, courtesy of Jigsaw's modified Gigatonic getting the win. And up next was Liu Kang versus Slenderman in another really close matchup. Slenderman almost got the win several times, however Liu Kang was able to finish him off with a well-timed hanging over head kick, followed up with a fatality super kick for the win. And up next was a champion versus champion match, the Internet champion Krillin versus the molecular champion Dracula. Now, before the match even started, Krillin was assaulted by Ronald McDonald and hit in the head with his own belt, which pretty much led to Dracula pretty much easily disposing of Krillin. So yeah, it was a little unfair, however, that's the way it goes sometimes. However, I do commend Krillin for going through with the match. And then it was time for our main event, Freddy Krueger vs. Gohan, where the winner of the match would enter the No Escape main event. And after a long, grueling contest, Gohan countered the Nightmare on Elm Street DDT and followed up with a Masenko Ha kick for the pinfall victory. And what was a very impressive match. Oh, also, during the show, Mario kind of ran over Luigi's car with a monster truck. So, you know, that kind of stuff happens, as to be expected. After that, the TAW General Manager Howard Stern came out and announced the main event of the next episode of TAW Rivals, which was a fatal four-way match between Gohan, the Joker, Freddy Krueger, and Dante, where the winner of the four-way would face off against the current TAW World Heavyweight Champion Frieza in a championship match, where of course the winner of that match would go to No Escape as the TAW World Heavyweight Champion, and that match would take place on the next episode of TAW Action in the main event. So that was a pretty big announcement. And a pretty good segue for what's up next, the August 20th edition of TAW Rivals. The show kicked off with a huge tag team #1 contenders match, as Shinsuke Nakamura and Jigsaw took on Superman and the Incredible Hulk. And with the #1 contendership on the line, and after a great, grueling matchup, the Incredible Hulk pinned Jigsaw with a huge Gamma Bomb to secure the #1 contendership for himself and Superman. However, after the match, the current tag team champions, Pennywise and Sweet Tooth, came down to the ring and assaulted both men. And that's sending a message that they will not be easy to defeat come No Escape. And up next was a Femme Fatale division match as the champion took on Mrs. Claus, Android 18 versus Mrs. Claus. And Android 18 was pretty much dominant for the entire match and eventually won with her submission move, which was a weird sharpshooter Gogoplata combination move. So yeah, she's looking good going into her title defense against the Statue of Liberty. And after that, Turles came down with a promo and challenged any member of the TAW roster to a Hardcore Open Championship match on the next episode of TAW Action. So the next TAW Action will have two title matches, one for the TAW title, and one Turles putting up the Hardcore title against anyone who will come out and face him. And up next was Austin Aries versus William Wallace in singles competition, and Austin Aries defeated William Wallace with a huge brainbuster, and again sending a message to his opponent at No Escape, Shadow the Hedgehog. And then it was time for the main event, the Fatal 4-Way that I mentioned earlier, and it was a fast and furious encounter. However, at the very end of the match, Dante proved victorious, busting out a brand new submission hold. He pulled out the cattle mutilation, completely blowing everyone's mind and making Freddy Krueger submit. So Dante is going to be facing Frieza for the TAW World Heavyweight Championship on the next episode of TAW Actions. And that was TAW Rivals. However, this defeat did not sit very well with Freddy Krueger, since a few days after Rivals, he cut a promo on Liu Kang and challenged him to a match at No Escape. And this match would be a street fight, and Liu Kang's guaranteed championship match at Riot Central 2 would be on the line. Liu Kang has not accepted this challenge yet, but I don't know if he will. We will have to find out the answer to that on the next episode of TAW Action. And finally, the last part of this recap was the second ever TAW UCT pay-per-view event on September 26th of this year, TAW UCT Overload. And this was a huge show, and it kicked off with a bang as we started things off with the finals of the TAW UCT Lightning Weight Championship Tournament. Man, is that a mouthful, but it was Usain Bolt versus Hazmat, and it was a fantastic way to open the show. However, near the end of the match, Usain Bolt accidentally knocked out the ref with a clothesline, and Hazmat's tag team partner Johnny Ohm came out to ringside while the ref was down and hit Usain Bolt with his finishing move, the Electroshock Therapy Powerbomb, in order to attempt to win Hazmat the match. However, Usain Bolt rallied and hit a second lightning bolt on Hazmat in order to win the match and become the first ever UCT Lightning Weight Champion, overcoming insurmountable odds. And the next match on the show was Cole Williams versus Yamcha in a street fight, a match that Yamcha asked for himself. And not before the match even started, he attempted to attack Cole Williams, as he's been a thorn in Cole Williams' side for like a month now. However, Cole Williams responded in kind and beat the crap out of Yamcha for the majority of the matchup, mercifully ending it with a huge monster bomb, getting the 1-2-3, and then he proceeded to continue beating the crap out of Yamcha until Yamcha had to be stretchered out of the arena. Poor life choices by Yamcha. Up next was our second championship match of the night, Little Mac and Rocky Balboa versus Sean O'Haire and Captain Freedom for the UCT Tag Team titles. Now this was O'Haire and Freedom's first ever Tag Team title defense, but it was successful because Little Mac tried to knock Sean O'Haire off the apron, but he distracted himself, leaving himself wide open for Captain Freedom to take advantage and pin him to retain. A very disappointing defeat for Little Mac and Rocky Balboa, but O'Haire and Freedom looked strong as ever. And up next was Django versus Vladimir Putin in a regular matchup, and it was a back-and-forth brawl, and which led to Vladimir Putin target Django's midsection, putting him in the accolade for the submission victory. So Putin was your winner. And up next was a career-altering matchup, a pink slip match, loser-fired match, the Green Lantern versus the Grinch. Now, this was a very interesting contest. After several near falls, at the very end of the match, the Grinch removed the turnbuckle pad, exposing the steel, and even used it at one point, getting a very, very close near fall with the Grinch crushing finale off the Snake Eyes. However, the Green Lantern rallied, used it to his advantage, a little turnabout is fair play, hit several spears and the Light of Hope for the win, and ousting the Grinch from TAW. The Grinch has been fired, and Green Lantern was finally victorious. And this would not be the last time we would see him that night. And up next was the first ever UCT Femme Fatale match. This was a debut of the division showcasing what these ladies can do, and it was Harley Quinn versus Xena Warrior Princess. And at the very end of the match, Xena Warrior Princess defeated Harley Quinn with Chris Daniels' Angel's Wings in a very impressive contest. And up next was our third championship match of the night, Leonardo DiCaprio defending the UCT Extreme Championship against Midget Brock Lesnar in a no disqualification, no countout, falls count anywhere match. And this match was ugly. They beat the tar out of each other. However, at the very end, DiCaprio hit his finishing move, the Decapitator, on Midget Lesnar through the announce table and then on top of the broken announce table to retain the title after a huge roller coaster of a match where they beat the tar out of each other for like a good 15 minutes. However, after the match, while DiCaprio was celebrating, he was assaulted by the Green Lantern, pretty much Green Lantern declaring that he wants to face off against Leonardo DiCaprio for the Extreme title. And up next was an unplanned matchup, impromptu, as Cole Williams, who was victorious earlier tonight, came out and issued an open challenge to the locker room. And who was to accept that open challenge? None other than Sheldon Cooper, who proceeded to lose the match in under a minute because Cole Williams ran through him like a tank. And it was ugly. Just poor Sheldon Cooper. But that, of course, led us to our main event, a triple threat 2 out of 3 falls match. Skeeter Valentine defending the TAW UCT Championship against Hollywood Black Hogan and Jeff the Killer. Now, this was a very interesting match because each person had to win the match twice in order to win the match overall. And it started out with Black Hogan and Jeff the Killer double-teaming Skeeter and exchanging falls on him. They hit their finishing move, threw the other guy out of the ring, and stole the pin, pretty much. So yeah, that was interesting. However, Skeeter was able to rally, hit a low blow on Hollywood Black Hogan, and score a small package. And after another 10 or so minutes, Hollywood Black Hogan hit a huge leg drop on Jeff the Killer. However, Skeeter Valentine was able to get in the ring and hit his finishing move in order to steal that pin, and he is still the TAW UCT champion. And that was TAW UCT, and that is it for this recap. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you guys next time.